and gentlemen, it is Monday night, which means it is here for another round of movie reviews here at Society Reviews. As you see, I got some new faces here, I got some old faces here, and we're on some new platforms tonight. So this will be the first time that I've streamed on all YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter simultaneously. So this should be a very interesting way to see how things go tonight. But before we get started, let's go ahead and introduce our group tonight. Starting from, I guess, would be my right, Mr. Rick Aragon, right?
I think that's close enough as you're going to get.
Okay, then I think that's pretty much it. Cause I watch it every single week. It's almost become a running joke now. So, and then right below him is our good friend Rob Model. How you doing this week, man?
Good. Ready to talk some movies.
You look happy tonight. I noticed you look a little bit more than you normally do.
I am like this every single week. I am no different tonight.
And then right below me is our good friend, our longtime friend, Mr. Christian Toto from Hollywood and Toto. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. I'm not an old face. I'm just seasoned. That's all.
Mm-hmm. So I brought you guys on tonight, but first I wanted to go ahead and introduce our new guest, Mr. Christian Toto. This is actually the first time I guess me and you have actually talked in years. So kind of give a backstory of how far back art goes. So when I started Society Reviews 6 years ago, I was one of the few, I guess you can call it at the time, just right-wing movie critics that we had out there, and you were one of the few voices that we had. So we connected pretty early on, and you helped me out with a lot of things. Trying to get in my sites started, my Hollywood reviews started, things of that nature. Gave me a lot of good advice. We've always kept in touch for years, and now look at you. You've blown up over the last few years. I mean, everyone knows you now. You're on Fox News. Just all the big success that has happened over you. But like I said, out of all the guys here and everyone I've talked to who knows you, the same thing. All the success has come from you over the last few years is well deserved. You're a great guy. I'm glad to have you on tonight, man.
Well, thank you. As I often say, I'm very famous. And when people who have to say they're very famous, it means they're not very famous. So I appreciate the kind words.
All right. A quick little shout out to our guy, our editor extraordinaire at Bounding in the Comics, Spencer, who is joining us tonight. So, of course, everyone loves the intro. I guess he's asking, Rick, you have a new setup. I think every time we see you, you're at a different location. So we have to ask you every week, you got a new setup.
Actually, no, I just turned the laptop on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. On the opposite side is what you would normally see from me, but I just decided I want something a little nicer. I gotta up my game here. I got the man, the legend here. Come on, I gotta raise it up a bit. So no, it's just the opposite side of my room.
All right. Well, I mean, it's better side, especially with better lighting than what we're normally used to. So, and then the final question here is for Rob. Are you drinking milk tonight? Spencer wants to know.
No. Do you know that I'm wearing my Clockwork Orange shirt underneath? That was really weird. That was a really weird question. No, I'm drinking water.
So thrown under the bus, Mr. Extraordinary, but he's used to it by now. He's used to us just throwing him under the bus for no reason whatsoever. So glad to have a Christian here. Then I guess you guys are here too. So just go ahead and get you guys. How you guys doing tonight?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Well, for me, I'm doing good. I've been busy getting things ready for my mom's celebration of life party on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of real quick, for those of you who don't know, my mom passed away about 2 years ago, and because of the COVID restrictions, we didn't have a proper service.
Yeah.
So now, what would have been on her birthday, I said, it's time to celebrate her life, and so I've been running around getting the hall, the DJ, the food. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm just worn down. And these movies did not help. All right.
Well, don't throw all that on me. Just a little bit. But I'm glad to see you doing a little bit better. Obviously, we talked about that over the years. And best of luck to you. Best well wishes. Well, we were kind of coming in hot when we came in right before we actually went live talking about these films tonight. So I guess we can go ahead and get started with it. And we should just go ahead and get started with the first film, which is Nope. Which, I don't know if you guys know this, but Nope is definitely a box office success. And if you don't like it, you may be a bigot. So let's go ahead and give a quick little introduction to the film Nope, written and directed by Jordan Peele. Yes, a movie with so many puns attached to it just by the name itself. Did you like the movie? Are you going to go see the movie? Nope, it's written right there for you. So this is the latest film from writer and director Jordan Peele. He's produced a couple of films that we saw fairly recently that none of us really liked. I think that Candyman movie kind of just brought everyone down. But this is his first written and directed film since 2019's Us. And obviously, right before that, he had the film Get Out, which is a film that I actually did like. But this will be the trifecta here. So this film is set back in 1998 on the soundstage of Gordy's Home, which is a television show that's in Jordan Peele's universe. We'll talk a little bit about that as we get into it as well. But essentially, this film is centered around a family who owns horses that are raised to use in Hollywood. So these are film horses that are used. And then you have David Kaluuya, which I've always tried not to pronounce his name, but the kid was a little bit iffy at times. But David Kaluuya is working at the ranch with his father, played by Keith David. And they're working on the horses, and all of a sudden, these very sharp objects start falling from the sky, like things like keys and coins, and very, very odd circumstances where, unfortunately, his father dies due to one of these things hitting him in the head, causing mass trauma. But they don't really go into any deeper into the investigation of what possibly happened, which is a little bit odd. But we fast forward a little bit, a few weeks later, and then his sister, Keke Palmer, joins the ranch, essentially trying to help the quote-unquote family business. And over the course of the next few days ahead, they start noticing that there's very odd things that are going on, such as clouds that are in the sky that aren't exactly moving like other clouds. And the horses seem to be reacting to things that aren't particularly there. But as things get a little bit deeper, we realize that there is something going on here, and there's something that is hunting these animals, sort of like an animal would, as they describe in the film. So over the course of the movie, they try to figure out exactly what's going on. Is this an alien attack? Is this a monster attack? Is it a combination of the two? I don't think we get a clear answer, even though they do kind of explain somewhat what's going on here. So I want to kind of break this down a little bit to the way that we talk about this film. I want to talk about the story first of all. I want to see how you guys felt about the story of this film. And since Christian, you're our guest for tonight, let's go ahead and start off with you. What did you think about the setup of this movie? Because I think a lot of us have the same issues with this film, is that it's very, very dry and it's very, very long going into it. It's almost like you're waiting for something to happen that doesn't quite happen. So did you feel that way, the opening of this movie?
Yeah, I was bored the first half hour. There's one initial scene involving that classic TV show where things go awry, I'll put it that way. And I thought that was chilling and interesting and certainly worthy of Jordan Peele and the hype around him. And then the story just kind of dragged for me. It didn't get very interesting. The two main characters, the brother and sister, I thought were dullards. One is screechy. One is just so quiet and withdrawn. He's barely there. And as the mystery develops, you get invested in it. You're curious what's going on, what's going to happen. And there's some hope flashing here. But it never really kind of percolates for me. And I think a mediocre movie turns into a terrible movie by the third act, which I think is disastrous. And I just have lots and lots of problems here. I didn't understand the characters' motivations. I didn't think the story was solid. Not many scares, if at all. It fails on a lot of levels.
Yeah, so this was a big thing with me, because watching this film, especially early on, there was a lot of things you can say that were at least a solid way to kind of start off the story, because there was a lot of mystery about, why are these things falling from the sky, like what happened to his dad. So they were kind of setting up things that you figure that they were going to explain that would have deeper meaning later on in the film. And then after a while, just kind of like they almost forget about the story at hand for like the next 30 minutes. And then it's so long and it's so dry that the only way you could possibly save a film like this is that, well, the ending, the third act has to be like out of the park, right? To make everything worth it. And I didn't feel like we got that. So, Rob, what are your thoughts just on the story-wise of this film? Did you also feel the same way about being long and drawn out?
I mean, I think it's a movie I think Jordan Peele wanted to make a movie about spectacle that isn't really spectacle driven. I mean, he gives us a little bit of this like UFO chase and we don't know what's darting across these clouds. But there's really not much creative energy to sustain these scenes. And so we're just kind of like waiting for something to happen that never comes. And so like by the end of the movie, they're trying to capture this spectacle, but we don't, there's no reason to care about these characters. They're incredibly, as Christian said, they're dull and uninteresting, and there's no momentum or reason for us to care. You know, there's no stakes involved. You know, the dad, the patriarch, he passes away, and then there's all this sort of space between that event and the rest of the movie. So yeah, I just thought the movie as a whole fell flat.
I do want to hit up on the characters in this film in a second, but Rick, I want to go ahead and kind of give your initial thoughts on the film, just the way that it was structured going into it. Where do you think that they could have done better? Where do you think they ultimately failed in the setup of the story?
Well, I have to start off with a sad confession. I'm pretty sure that I nodded off at a certain point, somewhere between when you had the cinematographer give what was allegedly a very scary recitation of one-eyed, one-horned purple people eater, and when Jupe's balloon went up. Somewhere around there, I think I was semi-conscious.
You didn't miss much. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Good. It just seemed to just go on and on and on, and you are waiting for something to happen. And for me, I was hoping that that Keith David would just play a larger role. It was kind of sad to see someone with a lot of talent just there, almost like a glorified cameo. That's all it was. And you're just waiting and waiting, and you're wondering. I know that he's trying to work in the Jupe story and the horse's story and the alien story all together. It's going to come together somehow at the end. But by that time, I was pretty much semi-conscious, waiting for something.
Our good friend all the way from Australia, Matt's Movie Reviews, brings up a good point here. He says, Jordan Peele could be the next M. Night Shyamalan. I want you to hold on to that point. We'll get back to it later on, but I want to focus a little bit more on the characters. Now, because this film, it wasn't very interesting for me, because I felt like the characters just weren't very strong. Like, the film really focuses on three characters in this film. You have David Kalu, who plays a very dry, uninteresting character, given like his background. Like, he's been on this ranch for so many years, working with his dad, raising these horses, but it's almost like he's barely given any real personality whatsoever by design. And then you have his sister, which I guess is supposed to make up that difference in personality, played by Keke Palmer, but she plays a very erratic, sometimes irritating type of personality throughout the film. And then the third character in this film is essentially a guy who works at Fry's electric shop, which I'm pretty sure went out of business like 2 years ago. So I find it very, very interesting. But I have to remember this film was supposed to be set in the late 90s. So it wouldn't make sense that they would still be around at this point. So
I've never heard of that. I never heard of that chain. So I thought it was an imaginary one.
No, it's. I know they had a lot of chain stores out in California, but like I said, within the last 2 years, like the COVID pandemic pretty much put them out of business pretty hard. So I don't know if they were in like any other places. I know we had a couple here in Georgia, but yeah, it's a real chain. But so I mean, the characters really just didn't give you anything that kind of to kind of bite on. It's not like they were particularly bad actors. It's just like they were just written kind of dry. You felt that way, Christian?
Yeah, like you said, one is a recent Oscar winner. How could you go wrong? But these are not interesting performances. And I think taking out Keith David, sorry for the spoiler alert, but it happened so quickly. What a terrible mistake. First of all, such a good actor, so interesting. Love to see him on the screen. But more importantly, maybe that father-son or even father-daughter dynamic would have added some richness or texture to the story, made us more invested in it. But as it stands, he's barely a figure. He's barely consequential. It's generically his ranch, but there's no real gravitas there. Just a terrible mistake. And I mean, when you hire someone like that who's a veteran, maybe there's stuff on the cutting room floor that just got swept away. I can't explain it. It's just very strange. But yeah, Keke Palmer's character is grating. I know she's supposed to be like the live wire, and there's nothing wrong with her as an actress. It's just not good. So, it's bad choices all around.
I think we have a special guest joining us.
Yes,
right
I know.
you there.
You gotta go, sweetheart. Thank you. Sorry.
Shout out to Ben, by the way. Rob, what did you think of this character? I know you had a tweet about this, especially regarding Keke Palmer's character in the film. What did you think about this?
Yeah, I just thought she was kind of a clown, a caricature, and there are these like check boxes in there in the dialogue. There's not much of a characterization, but it's like, oh, she's a gay woman. You know, she makes this comment about, you know, sleeping with a therapist or something for a laugh line, and and Keith David is, or I just want to, not David Keith, Keith David. There we go. Make sure I got it right. He's great. And he would have added some gravitas and some personality to this movie. I did want to say I like the inclusion of Michael Walcott as the cinematographer, because I thought that, and maybe I'm just a fan of him from, like Robin Hood and The Count of Monte Cristo, and he has that gravelly, gritty voice. And so he gave, towards the end of the movie, I felt like he gave maybe some energy and gravitas to the whole thing. But the characters really left a lot to be desired in general in this movie. Keke Palmer is absolutely, I think it's more the material that's annoying than her, because I've seen her and stuff and she's a fine actress. But I just felt like her character didn't work at all here.
Rick, I want to ask you this because I want to ask you, do you agree with the notion of Keke's character not being likable? Because I say this because I just watched the Resident Evil Netflix, right? And one of the major complaints about that one is that the main protagonist in that series is absolutely unlikable by all metrics of storytelling and character building whatsoever. And I'm thinking to myself, have we gotten to a point where cinema, where I guess the people who are in charge of writing these characters don't exactly understand that the people that they're putting on paper aren't likable in real life or to the average person? Like, do they actually think that her portrayal in this film would have made her endearing to the audience, and was that a mistake?
No, her character was annoying. I didn't care if she got sucked up or not. I almost think that she was there kind of to compensate for OJ's almost catatonic worldview, where he was pretty much a zombie. But I think it was the material. I think if those were the characters as written, I think they played the parts well, because OJ never seems to move or speak, and like he seems not unaware. He knows what's going on, but it's almost like he doesn't care. And Emerald was just kind of just not quite screaming her way across the screen, but just kind of compensating by just being annoying and difficult. And I didn't care for her. I didn't care for either of these siblings, and I do wish that Keith David had been there more. I mean, you've got someone who is just a great talent, and this is my chance to plug a Frederick Douglass biopic, which I'm praying he'll still be able to do. But it's such a waste, such a waste for him. And I didn't care for these. I didn't care for the brother and sister. So I was like, take them up.
Yep.
By the way, this is sort of an odd comment, but one of the very few perks of my life is I get a lot of the publicity stills for different movies when they come out. So it's kind of interesting to me, and just to see how they're repeated across the media. The stills for Nope are terrible. There's one of OJ where I can't even see his features. It looks like it's overexposed or underexposed, whatever the photographic term is. They're just bland. They're dull. My gosh, you're trying to sell this movie, and these are the stills you're putting out there. Very strange, but maybe it's like a meta commentary about how bad the movie is.
I had the same issue because I was doing a review for Zinger too, and you have to find pictures to kind of go with your article, and it's like, wow, even these pictures are kind of uninspiring, boring too. It's like that. So, but I want to ask you guys this question. You all can answer this one. Whenever we have films like this, you hear certain reviewers, they try to say that well, the movie wasn't good or the character wasn't good, but so and so is a great actor, right? I hear that excuse being laid with a lot of people, especially when we talk about people like Tessa Thompson, which I know Rob loves very, very much. But there's always that narrative that well, it's not really the actor's fault; it's the writer's fault. Do you think that in this film that it was really Jordan Peele's fault for making uninteresting characters, or do you think that, like I said, if Keke Palmer just wasn't the right person for this role in the film?
Well, one thing I will say is the right role and the right actor, it's super important. We're going to talk about Ryan Gosling in The Gray Man soon. And it's not a well-written character, but there are certain actors who could bring something to it. and Gosling does not. So I think Daniel Kaluuya is a very good actor, but maybe another performer would have been right for that role, or been able to kind of find something of interest. And he just couldn't do it. I don't think it's a stain on his legacy. It's just that it's a poorly written role, and he's not the kind of actor who can take that kind of part and make something substantial of it. That's my best guess.
Rob, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Kaluuya is talented. I just don't think that I don't think the material is very good. But they also, both him and Keke Palmer had to sign up for it. They both had to sign, look at the script and say, "Oh yeah, I want to be a part of this, Jordan." So it's both halves, I think, to some degree. But I think the material first has to be good for an actor to be good. I think, but I also agree with Christian. There are certain stars that bring something to the table. I mean, Tom Cruise has kind of made a career out of turning not great stuff into something compelling. So there are examples of that that just didn't come together here.
Well, I'm not just going to blame the screenwriter. I'm going to blame the director. Fortunately, it's the same person. It's not just the script, which gave them very little to work with. It's the director, and he, I guess, directed one to be pretty much dead, and the other one to be almost insanely compensating for her brother's total lack of energy. So it's not just the writing; it's the directing. And you've got, I don't know where Keke Palmer from. Maybe if I see her credits. The only credit I remember from her is in the end credits. You got to see acting coach for Keke Palmer, and which I thought was a strange thing. I mean, you had personal assistant, acting coach. Okay,
was that for this movie?
Yes. It was. I stayed for the end because the seats at the Alamo Drafthouse sometimes are hard to get out of. So as I was reading the credits, it said acting coach So
I think the rest of us was like trying to get out of the theater the second the credits started up. We never even noticed it.
Is it over yet?
No, but no, it's not just the screenplay. It's directing, and if he directed them to be either slow or hyper, then that's more on him. I can't blame the actors alone. They do the best they can with the material they have, and they didn't have good material here.
Let me ask you guys about Stephen Yeun's character, because when I'm looking at his character and really the whole plot that's revolving him, so there's a whole kind of like past and present sequence with this film where he was working on this TV show within this film. That there was some incident with like a monkey, and the monkey kind of went crazy and started like attacking and killing people. And then there was like, I guess there was they were implying that he kind of killed like everyone in the studio audience too, because there were like bodies that were like lined up like in the background as well, that they were dead as well. So I was thinking to myself, how did this thing kill all these people and like no one showed up? Like, so, but the whole point of that segment was that I thought it was going somewhere, like especially when they played up to it like early on. But then about halfway during the movie, when certain happens with the monster in this film, all that just kind of goes out the window, which makes me think, okay, then what was the point of having that scene like in the film, especially since this movie is over 2 hours long? I felt like you guys could just cut all that out altogether, maybe cut his character out entirely as well. What do you guys think about him and kind of the storyline revolving around him in this film?
I didn't care about his character. I thought the monkey TV attack scene was chilling and probably the best part of the movie individually, although I don't think it directly tied into the events of the film. So why would you even bother? I guess I'm not smart enough to figure out the connective tissue there between that and the overall story. I don't care. I don't think I should have to work that aggressively hard to figure things out. And also, you mentioned, like, weren't there people on the set? I mean, usually an animal on set will have an animal trainer. I mean, there's a lot of significant plot holes in this movie. It just struck me as lazy. Having said that, when the movie opens and the monkey has done his thing and the person's foot is sort of in front of the camera and he touches the foot and it kind of just lolls back and forth, I thought that was brilliant. It was like scary and creepy and chilling. I'm like, yeah, Jordan Peele knows how to kind of trot out these horror elements. He's really good at it. And then
Mhm.
the rest of the movie just collapses. And it's funny. I thought the best scare in the whole movie is a fake scare that happens early-ish involving, I think he's like in a barn or something like that, where these creatures are coming out.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and
Oh,
it's
the
shown to be a
kids.
fake scare. But you know what? The buildup was excellent. And then he did like 3 cheap scares in a row. I thought, okay, he's having a little fun with this. There's kind of a texture here. He's like kind of playing with the idea that what horror movies do. I'm okay with that. But looking back on it now, I'm like, yeah, that was the only time I thought it was creepy.
Yeah, and then just real quick before I let Rob go on, is that, like you said, that was probably one of the best scenes in the movie, but ultimately it had no bearing on the ultimate overall arc of the story. So it's like, if that's the best part of your movie and it pretty much meant nothing, then what did the scene actually mean in reality? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I weirdly connected it. Now maybe I'm reaching because I was literally trying to understand where Jordan Peele was trying to connect this to, but basically, the idea of mistreatment of animals. This is a long, written about his documented history in Hollywood. Because we've used many horses, and there have been terrible tragedies that have happened on set. And so I thought maybe he was trying to connect it between the horse handlers and the people that were working with the monkey, and that under the wrong supervision, tragedy can happen, and tying that into the spectacle of entertainment and condemning us for it. Like all this stuff, basically jumping through all these hoops just to get to the underlying symbolism of this movie is just like, okay, you didn't do the work, Jordan. You didn't we can't figure out what you're trying to say here, but it doesn't really connect to the UFO in any meaningful way. And I'm just giving you an F. So, I mean, I think there might be something there that he's trying to say, but I don't know what it is. And it's not like there's no joy behind it. There's no like joy of even filmmaking in the composition. And so it just feels like an overly serious, not scary horror movie.
Well, I had the same thought as Christian did when I was watching that scene. I was thinking, if the monkey, if Gordy starts going bonkers, wouldn't his trainer be on set? Wouldn't someone be able to tase him? Wouldn't someone bring this under control? No, they're gonna let this chimp just go on a rampage and start killing people left, right, and center. Now I could understand maybe the audience fleeing in terror, but why would the cast still be there? Because you had the father on the show try to tell him, Gordy, no. Like, why? He would have left. He would have left. And then to later on drag his poor co-star, whom I'm assuming survived, who's veiled. Why she had to be in there, I don't know. I don't believe that Saturday Night Live would have made a whole sketch that would be a classic about a killing on television.
Yeah.
And I also kind of early on I noticed, or maybe it was just me. Well, first I got hung up on that. I'm one of those people that gets hung up on details like that, and I can't enjoy the movie if I keep focusing on why was the animal trainer not there to stop this rampage. Just left. But I also saw when they go into the western park, there was, I think, a poster for what looked like a reality show called Jupiter's Orbit. So I'm assuming he had some kind of reality show. So he wasn't completely unknown to where what just a few people would show up to his big show.
Yeah.
And no, I think that whole thing about having a secret room where you keep all of this memorabilia, if it's such a traumatic moment for him, why does he keep all that and make money off of it? If there's some sort of symbolism, I missed it, but it just didn't work for me. Why? And Stephen Yun, he seemed to be closer to Daniel Kaluuya, who was kind of sleepwalking. Although I can understand he was supposed to be like that. I don't know why Steven Yeun just had very little energy. You're trying to pump up your audience to do this big show, and you're like not moving all that well. Why is he sending? I guess not a spoiler, but why is he sending people to the ranch late at night? I don't understand it. I don't understand any of it.
Well, so there's a couple of narrative issues with that as well, because, like I said, one, you have the fact that I think what they were trying to go for was that when they were doing the whole scene with the monkey killing everyone at the stage, that they were kind of showing that, as a kid, he had this traumatic experience, was led him to, I guess, sympathize with monsters. And there's a lot of dialogue in the film that tries to say that, well, the monster that's in the sky that's attacking these horses, it has a lot of similarities to like an animal, right? So when the monkey's killing everyone, they had that one moment where you almost kind of sympathize with them right before they shot him and whatnot. So then later on in the film, it's shown that Steven is obviously aware of this thing in the sky too, and it implies that he's been using the horses to sort of feed this thing and make it a part of the show, and then things go wrong like later on. But I'm also thinking to myself, while that's being set up, it's like, okay, so he was feeding these horses to this giant like space monster, and somehow Daniel Kaluuya's character was completely unaware of this, because they were having a deal where he was selling them the horses that he thought were being used for like the show or whatnot. I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're selling him these horses, and when you go back to make the next deal, you're not noticing that all the horses that you're giving to this guy aren't there anymore. Like it seems like there should have been some other clues leading up to that, but that was never kind of addressed in the film. Did you guys get that as well?
Yeah, I mean, just it's part of the tapestry of holes in this story. I mean, it doesn't hold up to any kind of scrutiny whatsoever. And again, I think we're giving Jordan Peele too much credit by trying to tease out what the themes are, and we're giving him, and we also expect more from him as a storyteller. He's better than this.
And I think that like my generation, people that are in their early 30s and their 20s, Gen X and millennials love Jordan Peele, just in terms of his movies. They've gone out to see his movies, and like reputation wise, he's somebody that they want to go see. And so I'm going to be interested to see how the box office does past this weekend, because I really thought this movie was underwhelming, and I'm somebody that didn't like Us. I thought Get Out was okay. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it, but this was just, and I don't want to say it's a disappointment because I don't like his movies, so in general. So it was pretty much on par with what I've expected from Jordan Peele. And I just want to say real quick, I actually thought the movie, at least in capturing the Western landscape, I actually thought the cinematography was pretty sharp. Then I looked up who shot it, and it was like Hoytema, who's Christopher Nolan's DP. And so it's like, okay, I mean, at least you have those, if you want to call them establishing or master shots that kind of look nice of the locations. But I kind of expect more out of somebody like out of Jordan Peele. And, maybe I am expecting too much.
The box office you alluded to is very interesting because Us made, I think, 71 million the opening weekend, which is massive. This is 25 million plus less. And also this had no competition at all. And horror tends to drop pretty dramatically second, third weekend. And I got a lot of negative responses to this film on my website. So I think there are a lot of people in line with us who thinks it stinks. And I think that the box office is going to drop. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
Well, you compare this to The Black Phone. That was a horror film, and that one has been doing quite well. But as a Gen Xer, Rob, I'm not big on Jordan Peele.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think he is your generation's Alfred Hitchcock or Stanley Kubrick or whatever director you want to attach to him. I wouldn't have rushed out to see this movie. And I didn't see Get Out or Us in theaters. I actually saw them with the screeners.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not a director that I rushed out to see. I'm still not particularly impressed. The only thing I got out of this and the other movies is that he's a fan of horror and sci-fi films, and he brings that into the movies. When he does a costume drama, then I'll be if he does The Age of Innocence, I'll be impressed.
I want to talk about Jordan Peele for a second, but I do want to bring up this tweet here, because I think this is one that I sent for Rob, I think right before we went on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from Logan Paul. And Logan Paul apparently saw this film last night and made a tweet about it. He says that Nope is one of the worst films that I've seen in a long time. I love Jordan Peele and Keke Palmer can act their ass off. This movie is objectively slow, confusing, stretched with themes that don't justify pace. So he also went on to say a lot of other things. But people obviously attacked Logan Paul for having this opinion because it's this weird thing with Jordan Peele, like leading up to it, because of the subject matter of his movies. He's sort of become critic proof in a sense, where a lot of people are just kind of afraid to actually point out the actual flaws that are in his films. So here you have a movie where he's the director, he's the writer, he's the producer. So if there's anything that goes wrong in this film, there's really no one else to blame but him. But do you think with the with the filming of Get Out and then with Us as well, with this notion that you can't really criticize him as a filmmaker or the content of his films because a lot of his films deal with race, so obviously a lot of people make the conflation that, well, if you don't like his films, you must be an ist or a phobe of some kind. You know what I mean? So I'll start this off with Rob. What do you think of just kind of just Jordan Peele as a filmmaker? Do you think that basically his work beforehand is kind of made him critical proof? People can't judge him objectively.
Yeah, I like Jordan Peele a lot better on Mad TV and Key and Peele and his comedy shows that he's famous for. As a director, I kind of, especially the interviews I've read, he kind of comes off as an insufferable person who thinks he's so clever or that he's on the cusp of something deep and meaningful. And it's like, dude, you make horror movies. Just scare us and give us a thrill and, go back to the basic aspects of storytelling, because Get Out, even though that there's some social satire there, it's ultimately a survival horror movie, elongated Twilight Zone episode. Yeah. And that's fine. That's totally fine. And but to make it that, you're saying something deeper, there's this underlying symbolism that's supposed to be brilliant. It just feels like a sociology professor beating you over the head with a cudgel or something. And I've never felt like he's an artistic filmmaker who's, has a clear vision of what he even wants to say.
Well, Christian, let's Christian real quick, because you've been a little bit more favorable for Jordan Peele as a director, as a lot of us are. But you've also noticed a lot of the reviews kind of giving him more credit than he deserves for some of his films as well. What do you think of just kind of the critical aspect of him as a filmmaker? Because we have a film like this where there's a lot of holes and there's a lot of flaws. There's a lot of people who won't point out those flaws because they feel like they have to protect Jordan Peele to some degree or another. Do you see that, or what do you think is the biggest problem there?
Yeah, there's two things going on. I think he is a prominent filmmaker of color, and I think that kind of kicks in the critics as far as they want to defend him to a certain degree. But I think actually more in an overarching way, I find critics fall in love with certain directors. And even when those directors put out subpar product, they get reviewed as if it's their best. And Paul Thomas Anderson comes to mind with Licorice Pizza, which I thought was fine, average, interesting, well put together. But the raves and the Best Picture nominations and all the accolades, not deserved. I mean, I've seen this a lot. I think Woody Allen got this treatment for quite a long time. That's over now for obvious reasons. But I just think that even I know some critics who I'm very friendly with, and I just think if they're locked into a director, they will generically love their stuff, even when it's not their best. And I think Jordan Peele is already kind of benefiting from that, where even though it's not his best work, even though he can do much better, even though it's deeply flawed, there's a sort of protective instinct that kicks in. It's kind of strange. It's like I'm a Yankees fan. I'm rooting for the Yankees. Even if they don't do well, I have to kind of figure out a way to shape it or massage the fact they lost 6-2 into it wasn't all bad.
Yeah, Christian doesn't get enough crap for not supporting the Rockies, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. Going to our resident Padres fan, Rick, what do you think? Because you had a point that you were going to make as well.
Well, yeah, I'm more long suffering there, Christian. So take that for what you will.
I will.
I think ever since Jordan Peele won original screenplay for The Stepford Wives meets Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, I've not been impressed with his work. I don't remember him on Mad TV. I never saw Key and Peele, so I don't have any love for him, and I don't have any hate for him. Yeah. I just don't see. I don't see this this genius that I keep hearing about. I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't care for Get Out because, again, I focused on why are there candles in the operating room. why is the whole operating room lit up with candles, which I don't think would be safe? And Us, yeah, I guess I liked Us, but I don't remember much of it. And with this, I'm sorry, but if I nod off, or if I have very vague memories of certain things, I'm not going to declare you, up there with Herzog, and in the pantheon of great directors.
Yeah.
So no, I think he does get a pass, whether it's because he is a person of color. I don't know. I can't answer that. I hope it's not the case, because you could be a minority, you could be a woman, and you could still be a lousy director. That doesn't mean that you're
Yeah.
automatically good because you're black, or you're Asian, or you're anything.
Right.
So I actually want to bring this comic. I said I was going to go back to it from our good friend Matt Movie Reviews. He was supposed to join us tonight, but he had a prior commitment that he couldn't get out of. But you talked about Jordan Peele being the next M. Night Shyamalan, and I actually made this note in my review in this film as well, because let's kind of go fast forward to the ending here. So, like I said, everything up to this point was kind of slow, it was plotting, it was dry, but the one way you can save it is that, the reveal of the monster in the film is impressive enough you can kind of forgive a lot of things leading up to that point. But once we actually got the reveal, it was like, oh, okay, so this is it. So people have seen the trailers, like it looks like a spaceship, but as I said, later on in the film, they kind of play up to the fact that, well, it's actually a kind of a living being that, eats people like an animal does. There's this whole thing about, well, you can't look at it in the eyes because, if you look at like a bear in the eyes, it'll attack you and things of that nature. And then, of course, you get to the ending, and it's kind of like the big reveal of like its true form. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, does anyone else think that this looks like just a giant busted helium balloon, or is that just me? So I want to kind of get your guys' reaction to sort of the monster reveal in the ending. Is there is there any, I guess you can say, legitimacy to the fact that this may be an M. Night Shyamalan level film?
Well, I mentioned the Shyamalan, and I'm not alone. I think because there's some good ideas here. There's some intriguing characters at times. I like the cinematographer, particularly in this film.
Yeah.
And there's bits and pieces where you go, oh, that's kind of interesting. Oh, that took me by surprise. And I think even Shyamalan's worst movies, there are always those elements. And then he just can't pull them together. And I think part of it with both these people, it could be they believe their own hype. They're immune to outside criticism. They don't want to work with collaborators. I mean, even Tarantino has this at times. I mean, even his best work, I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I could watch it again right now, but it's bloated. It's just bloated. And there's stuff you could easily trim away. But I think he's at that stage where who's going to tell Quentin Tarantino that you got to cut that scene or cut that character or cut that moment?
Yeah.
So, is Peele there? I don't know. I'm just guessing. But it certainly smells like it for sure.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of a tourist. I'm somebody that actually no, I want to see great filmmakers make their vision and I'll be allowed to do that. But there are negative aspects to that, in terms of being controlling or saying, no, I'm not going to listen to anybody on set kind of thing. Jordan Peele hasn't, to me, executed well enough to even have that reputation. So, and I'm probably an apologist for Martin Scorsese. I was on your site a couple years ago saying he was right about the Marvel comments, so I am biased in that way, but I don't feel like Jordan Peele has even remotely approached any of those directors. So every year, that's why I have hope in Hollywood, is because there are still talented people that want to make a certain kind of film, even if most of what we get is intellectual property and Oscar bait movies.
Rob, what would you think of the film's ending and guess the monster reveal?
I mean,
I was actually going to ask Rick, but I'll go back and ask Rob too.
No, I mean, it was really lame. I mean, I was out of the movie by the time they got get the special cameras and they're chasing after, and I'm just I'm waiting for it to be over. So, I was out by that point.
I could say I was out too, but for slightly different reasons at that point.
Yes.
Well, I remember when Shyamalan was declared the next Spielberg, they had that big time cover, and I think there are certain directors who make writer directors who make a big film, like Shyamalan did with Sixth Sense, and Peele did with Get Out, and then you automatically crown them as these titans of cinema, who are going to tower over people like Scorsese. And no, that's not a Scorsese short joke. Just going to tower. They're going to just be legends. I think you can't crown someone as a new anything until they have maybe 5 films of consistent quality, and that can stand on their own. I'm not going to crown Jordan Peele the new anything. He should be himself, and if this is himself, it's gets becoming diminishing returns, not just financial, but I'm curious to see what week 2 will be like. And as for the Alien, or whatever that thing was, yeah, it just looked like a big floating thing in the sky. I wasn't particularly impressed. I think the Martians in the War of the Worlds, the original one, were more impressive. At least they had that cool sound effect. But I wasn't overwhelmed by the Alien. But then I was like, oh, is that Jupe's balloon floating up there? Oh, okay. Are we near the end of this? That's where I was at that point.
Yeah, I did like the part at the end where the big boy starts like floating up into the sky, like through the clouds. I just think it's a giant like transformer. I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's clearly gone over the hill with this one. So I want to go ahead and get people's final thoughts with this one because as far as I've looked at this film, I mean, I was just bored throughout most of it. This wasn't even a film where I hated the film. Because usually when we were talking about this was like top 10 like worst films. Like usually my top 10 worst films are movies that I absolutely hated because I see a lot of bad movies throughout the year by choice, by the way, just throwing out there. But I know I just see a lot of bad films throughout the year. But this one was like it was just boring. Like when time was done, it's like okay, I'm never gonna watch this movie again, and I probably don't feel any emotion to it whatsoever. It's like there's things that like I said, cinematography is really really good. I think that's easily the best part of the film, and I think it's one of the parts that Jordan Peele didn't have much say in, I guess you could say, but outside of that, yeah, this film was just boring for me. But I haven't decided on a final number rating yet, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Give what your thoughts of the film is. You guys can give it a score out of 5 or 10, however your system works. So I'll start with Christian. What did you think of this film?
Oh gosh, I'll go with old school 4, 1 out of 4. I have to give it a 1. And it's sort of a better one than some other cheesy movies. There are things to admire about the movie, but I am grading it on this is a prominent filmmaker in a genre I love, and he's shown he can do better, and he didn't. So the 1 is well deserved, I think.
All right, Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I just thought it was really lacking content, heart, substance, really any reason to care about the characters, or be invested in the movie as a whole. I think it looks nice, and I think that it's relatively competently made, which is why I give it a 1.5 out of 5. But I just think it's lacking in pretty much every department, maybe outside of cinematography.
Yeah, I think. Well, it might be. I think I'm going to be a little more generous. I think I might bump it up to a 2 out of 5, only because I fell asleep. I feel a little guilty about it. But I maybe I'll rent and see that missing part once the inevitable Criterion version comes out. But I wasn't impressed. I didn't think that this movie was interesting. It didn't work for me as a sci-fi film, as a horror film, or even as commentary. If there was any kind of commentary, which I understand that there was, about race or what have you, I either missed it or was pretty much unconscious by the time that they were getting around to it. So I was just, I was like, I don't care. I don't care about these people. I don't care about any of these characters. I kept wondering why the monkey was let, or the chimpanzee, I should say, why he was let out, and nobody stopped him from his murderous rampage. And I've seen that little intro that they made for Gordy's home, and that just made me ask more questions, and it didn't really help anything. It was yeah, I guess well, maybe I'll go back to, maybe I'll agree with Rob. a 1.5 out of 5.
Well, you see, Rob, you convinced Rick to go to 1.5 out of 5. I think you convinced me to go to 1.5 out of 5 as well.
Made him contradict himself. He was like, I think I'm going to be a little nicer, and then he ended up not being a little nicer.
Yeah, and then the more he thought about it, yeah. I mean, look, this film, like I said, if it's not the worst film, but it's definitely the most boring film that I've seen so far this year. And then at the end of the day, I mean, the film's tedious. Like I said, it's like 2 hours, 15 minutes. You easily could have cut 15, 20 minutes out of this film that wouldn't have mattered anyway. I think to me, this is kind of just like a nothing burger of a movie. Like when at the end of the day, like you really just don't, you just feel nothing for it when it's over. And when you talk about Jordan Peele's 3 films, I actually really like Get Out. I gave it like that one a 4 out of 5. Us, I thought that there was a lot of issues there with kind of just the storytelling, and then I gave that one like a 2.5, and this one is like a 1.5 now. So there's definitely diminishing returns when it comes to these type of films. So, but one thing that we can say about this film, it definitely was not woke. So there's a check mark for this film. He didn't make it. Unless people are trying to say that there's a more deeper meaning about like the monster of this film that ties into like race, wherever the case may be. There's really no outward woke things in this film, with the exception of the fact we talked about this with films like Ambulance and other movies this year, is that we've gotten to this part with diversity and inclusion where they're writing in these very, very throwaway lines just to establish that, hey, someone is gay or a lesbian or a bi, or whatever the case may be, has no bearing on the story whatsoever and absolutely means nothing, but they have to throw that line in there just so they can make that checkbox so Universal doesn't get mad at them and they can greenlight the film. So
there was a Reddit thread about Christian, I think it's Christian's review, where he had said that it's not woke. And it's like, what the hell does he mean? And like all this like anger, this screed about basically like, what is he angry that it's not woke? And it's like, no, it's just, guys, pay attention. Just pay attention. It was very funny because it was people overreacting to your review of the movie, and it's like, no, it's not that it's woke. It's just it's not good. Just
It's funny that people read into something what they want to read into it instead of actually what's on the written or on the screen, for lack of a better phrase. I got a couple weird reactions that way. I'm like, that's clearly not what I meant, and you're not even reading my story. So
I think it's because some of these people are so used to quote unquote dog whistles and other things that are not there. It's like they can't handle people who are just blunt by exactly what they say. It's like, no, I said exactly what I meant. There's no hidden meaning to anything. So Spencer,
it's not real diversity. Just saying, I'm a lesbian and I slept with my therapist. That's not real. That's not real representation, because it has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on. It has nothing to do with her life. So it's just there to check off a mark and say, oh, okay, you've got a lesbian character, you've got a Hispanic character. Well, at least I give him credit for not making the Hispanic character an illegal. So that's a plus. That's a plus, because apparently, my whole family,
especially Hispanics and Americans. I mean, we all know they're not born here, so definitely.
That's right. That's right. So I'm expecting the Border Patrol any moment here.
Live this year, it'll make for great stream though. But but the reason why they do stuff like that is because, like you said, organizations like GLAAD are basically trying to say, hey, we need that 30% representation in film. So it's like, okay, well, how do we keep GLAAD happy? It's like, oh, let's just throw away this line about a therapist, and then that'll establish it, and that we will have to bring it up again for the rest of the film.
Well, is that a way to get it to qualify for Best Picture? Because isn't that a criteria now
that's a good point. I don't know if that would be enough. But that might be a little bit of a plus mark in your little notepad. So we'll have to wait and see.
But it ain't gonna get a Best Picture.
Imagine being so arrogant. You actually thought this movie would qualify for a Best Picture.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Get Out's much better than this movie, so I'm going to be careful. But I think, didn't that get nominated for Best Picture? I know it won for screenplay.
Yes, it did, and for director, actor. Well, yeah, but I mean, they had to give it to him in screenplay. That was the only category they could give it to him.
Yeah, when you talk about these so-called social thrillers, which is the name that he labeled for these thrillers that are based on like race and whatnot, and I said the reason why Get Out worked is because you did it with one. This is not something that you can do like every year or every 2 years and have the same effect over and over again. because, like I said, you're going to get diminishing returns. Then it's going to be some borderline pandering at that point too. And the fact you have so many people in the media trying to defend not only just the film, but then the box office results of this film too, just goes to be like, okay, you guys are trying way too hard now. All right, then. Well, that was our review of Nope. So let's go ahead and move over to our second film. I think there's going to be a lot more arguing when it comes to this film. This is The Gray Man, which is on Netflix. Now, look, when we're talking about Netflix, you have to understand we're dealing with a very, very low bar. There's not a lot of good stuff on Netflix. And if it is on Netflix, it's because some other studio made it. So you have to keep that in mind.
You say it's a low bar, but they spent $200 million. So again, like there has to be some bar, right?
We're going to get to that because I legitimately started thinking about this because I think they were even talking about like the new Game of Thrones series they're doing and how much money they've invested in that, like $20 million per episode, and Amazon is doing like $460 million for the first season of The Rings of Power. I'm thinking to myself, is this just blatant money laundering at this point? Is this what Hollywood has become? There's no possible way you spent that. We'll talk about that in a second, but let's go ahead and just play a little bit of clip here from The Gray Man.
The Gray Man. You got us some compromising information.
Lloyd.
Make him gone.
He won't be able to walk 10 feet without getting his head blown off.
You must be Lloyd.
What gave it away?
The trash stash.
Over here. I can kill anybody. Maybe not anybody.
Yes, this is the Netflix film from the Russo brothers called The Gray Man. So one thing, if you notice, the Russo brothers have made their name on the MCU films as we've named the longest running cinematic soap opera in history. I've added and theme park too. I just added that to the moniker. But these guys have done, Captain America Civil War, Winter Soldier. They did the last two Avengers movies. So now that they're kind of done with the MCU, they've been working on these smaller budgets. I guess you can't call it smaller budget because it's $200 million. But previously they had been working on smaller budget films. And they've been getting a lot of MCU actors involved with it. So this is not their first rodeo with Netflix. They did the Chris Hemsworth movie Extraction, which I actually thought was a pretty decent movie that's on Netflix right now. They did Cherry, a film with Tom Holland, as we have to call him Spider-Boy. And then now we're here with The Gray Man, and they pulled in Chris Evans, a.k.a. Captain America, to be a feature in this film, and we'll definitely talk about him later on. So the setup of this movie is very, very, I guess, you can call it interesting, but it's essentially your classic action thriller. You have a CIA agent who's played by Billy Bob Thornton, who visits a convicted murderer played by Ryan Gosling. And it gives him one of those deals. It's like, hey, you're going to be in here for the rest of your life unless you work for me because you're good at killing people, even though up to this point, the only person that he killed was his father, which is kind of weird to be on the CIA profile based off of that alone. But we'll get to that in a second. So 18 years later, and our friend is on a mission in Bangkok where he has to kill a high-level a target. But things go wrong. They tell him to take the shot, but he doesn't want to take the shot because there's a kid in the way. He doesn't want there to be any collateral damage. So he decides to cause a big mess. That way he can get the guy one-on-one. They have a little brief hand-to-hand combat moment. And then he realizes that the guy who he's been sent to kill was part of the same program that he's a part of. So he starts putting the dots together that if you're killing other former agents, how much longer is it going to be before he's on the list? So he starts asking more questions. He ends up taking a data drive, which has something that the CIA does not want out. So you have what I like to call them a suit number one and then a female suit number one who are in charge. And when Ryan Gosling's character decides to go rogue, he's like, well, we need to take this guy out. He's one of our highly trained assassins. We can't just send anyone. So, hey, let's just send this complete sociopath played by Chris Evans to go out there, and he'll go and find Ryan Gosling, and he'll kill him because he has no standards. He'll do whatever it takes, even if it's bending the rules of the CIA. Now, we're supposed to believe that this is a universe where the CIA is like, hey, man, you're going too far with your methods here. You can't be doing the things that you do. We're going to get in trouble for stuff like this. It's like, come on, guys, it's CIA. Like, stop it. So then the rest of the film is essentially a cat and mouse game where they're all looking for Ryan Gosling because they want the information that he possesses. And they send multiple assassins who you only see in a couple of scenes, and then they're kind of not talked about throughout the rest of the film. And then, so yeah, there's basically a cat and mouse game from Ryan Gosling running away from the CIA in different colorful locations of this film. So I want to start off here. We'll same what we talked about. Nope. I want to talk about kind of just the basic story of this film, because you can argue that it is pretty much like a generic, like, action movie. There's not right thing that sets it out, but for the budget that was presented with this movie, this is a $200 million film that they released on Netflix. And you wonder why Netflix is bleeding money right now. But to me, it just kind of felt like your basic like popcorn film. Like, this is a movie that if it wasn't for Netflix, you would probably be released sometime this year. And you go there, maybe you enjoy it, maybe you don't, but there wasn't really high expectations for it. What did you guys think of kind of the setup and the story for The Gray Man? I'll start with Christian.
The story is fine. It's generic as all as humanly possible. And that's, that should be enough if everything else is sort of firing on all cylinders. The Russos clearly know how to handle an action scene. They really go out of their way to make them spectacular and grandiose and exciting and chock full of fireworks. And that's fine, and I appreciate that. But the rest of the movie is so lazy, it's shocking to me. And, it's this weird thing where they could spend $200 million, which even in today's standards is a sizable sum. And they don't give a rat's what about the script or the characters or anything. They just care about the spectacle. And everything else is just an afterthought. It's kind of shocking to me, especially when you have the Russo brothers who have some talent, and you've got A-list actors here, really good people who can bring something to the screen. You think they'd want something more. I mean, Chris Evans's character is over the top, and I think the greatest villains are kind of not over the top. You think you dial it back a little bit, because I think he's chewing the scenery. And then Ryan Gosling's character is a cipher. I don't know anything about him. He's just a blank slate. And he's a good actor, but I don't think he's the kind of guy, at least here, where he could bring something out of nothing. And I'm sort of perplexed by it, because I watched it. I mildly enjoyed it. It wasn't horrible. I kind of appreciated how much effort they put into the action. Like, oh, good. They really tried hard. Wonderful. Where's the rest of the story? And then you trot out like an Alfred Woodward or Billy Bob Thornton, who are just good actors. You give them nothing to do. I felt sorry for Billy Bob. I'm like, my gosh, you should be elsewhere. You should be on a stage. You should be, flirting with some underage girl. Something. He's crazy, right? Anything. You know what I mean? Like, this is a waste of his skills, Yeah.
The Lobo by Toto there, Rob.
I was kind of searching for younger woman, and it came out like that, so I apologize for that.
No, that's great.
Going under 18, I meant like an inappropriately aged girl.
Come on.
Someone you can collect blood from.
I took it more as like Billy Bob's a badass, and he should be like, chatting up an attractive woman. That's kind of how I took it. Okay. But no, I actually Billy Bob Thornton's involvement here is actually, I enjoyed it. Is he being wasted? Absolutely. But the scenes in which he's in, he actually adds something to like the landscape of the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Look, Ryan Gosling has played this character before to differing, effectiveness levels. I liked him in Drive. I liked him in Only God Forgives, even though that's kind of you could argue it's not even a great movie. It's more style than substance. Nicholas Winding Refn. But yeah, here I feel like it's showing that the material isn't there, because when the material is good, I think Gosling can really bring something to the table as a leading man, and he just doesn't have much here to go on. There's like one expositional dialogue scene that tells you, oh, he's really a good guy who's really good at killing. So, I mean, that's basically his backstory. So, I just think that the material was lacking. Chris Evans is over the top. I laughed at just kind of how ridiculous he is. But again, Chris Evans needs the material to be better to really shine. And he's just kind of playing a caricature of a villain.
Well, I'm amazed. This is what, 50 million less than Thor: Love and Thunder? Was that my understanding?
Yes.
That is an absurdity.
Yeah.
That is. I still think a lot of this money, I don't think it's being laundered. I think this money is going to their gym instructors, so make them look really buff. First,
or the CGI.
or that too, and to send them all over the world you know, from Croatia to spending one night in Bangkok, which is the first thing that popped into my head. So to show you where my mind is at.
Yeah.
I'm tiring. I really much tired of Ryan Gosling's shtick of always being this kind of monotone, serious figure, uh, which would make the Barbie movie interesting watching to see if he could actually lighten up. And there was a line that where Chris Evans said extra 10 million for the first guy to put a bullet in this Ken doll's brain.
Yeah.
And I thought, was that an in joke? Was that some kind of commentary that
product placement?
Yeah.
That might have been the funniest part. This movie for me seemed to take from, and I know it's based on a book, and I'm assuming it's probably based on a series. So I just kept thinking there's a little bit of Taken, a little bit of Man on Fire, a little bit of Suicide Squad, and as someone who is not really big on some of the thrillers, bless them, but I've never been impressed with Jack Reacher or Mitch Rapp from the Vince Flynn books. Although no, there was one Vince Flynn book that I liked. This is pretty much the same as all these others. Chris Evans, he was over the top, but not even in a good way. And I agree with Christian. Villains, and I've said this before, villains never see themselves as villains. They always see themselves as either just the smartest people in the world, or they see themselves as the good people. This guy, all I could think of is, and not a reflection on Chris Evans as a person, but I think with that little Hitler stash, he could play the Fuhrer quite well. That's why I was like, yeah, he should play the Fuhrer, and he could go over the top with Hitler, outdo Alec Guinness, who was really over the top in Hitler the Last 10 Days. And there was nothing interesting about any of these people. Chris Evans, Ryan Gosling. Yes, I was. Well, it's nice to see that Alfred Woodard, can get a nice paycheck out of this. Billy Bob Thornton. I kept thinking he would make a great Lennon. He looks like Lennon for some reason. I was bored. I was bored. And I put this on Twitter. This is the worst movie I've seen. This is the worst movie I've seen all year. And I was thinking I would sooner watch Morbius than watch this.
Did you watch The Princess?
No, I did not see The Princess because no, I did not see the Princess, and I'm not less desire to.
Okay.
But this was the derivative of other kind of thrillers. It wasn't. And I said this is my basic review is like it was watching the highlights of a TV show that I had never seen or heard of, because I kept thinking I'm missing a lot of things. It's not a good thing when you want the child or the teen girl to meet a grisly end. All right, I'm sorry, and
that's
I don't know.
That's worse what I said.
Right.
Well, no, maybe Billy Bob Thornton could have asked her out.
And it's Julia Butters from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That was the one joy I had about the actress. She was bringing back Mirabella Lancer from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Who plays the girl. So
no. She was annoying. It's like I was thinking, what in the situations that you're in, wouldn't that cause your heart to have would you have a stroke at this point? There's just no.
She's got a pacemaker. Darn it.
Oh yeah, no, I
hated it. That was a weird little thing that they added to the story. It's like, oh, she has a pacemaker on, and she gets too excited, she'll have a heart attack, and then they just never played it up at all. I was like, you have to think if you're running away from people who are shooting at you, that would mess up your heart into something. We'll get that in a second. Yeah. A quick little sidebar here for Rob. Have you seen the movie The Neon Demon?
I haven't gotten to it yet. It's been on my list for years.
Because you mentioned Nicholas earlier. You should definitely go watch it because that film sucks. So going back to the film here, you guys have really been dogging out Ryan Gosling in this film, because the way that I look at it is that everything in this film is pretty much just kind of like basic generic popcorn film so he's essentially playing the role of acting man, he's action man, right? So his whole role is to be the lead character that people connect with. He's the cool guy, the guy that can get out of any jam because he's trained from by the CIA, whatnot. The character that I had a problem with was Chris Evans. I think everyone had a problem with Chris Evans because in the film, they tell you, oh, he's a sociopath. Like, he doesn't care about anything. And I felt like that was kind of the only direction that they gave Chris Evans for this film, is that, well, you're a sociopath, you're a crazy guy, so go out there and be your best crazy guy. And then that was like him. So he's essentially playing like this guy who I guess went to Yale. That was the hook for the film, and somehow got into.
Wasn't it Harvard?
I thought it was
Because in the beginning he's like, you don't
It
go to
was- I
Harvard
thought it
to
was
play
Yale.
football. It's like, you did, you know, kind of thing. It was just a weird. I thought it was Harvard, but maybe
I thought
I'm
it was
wrong.
Harvard too.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I heard Yale, but it was one of those snooty Ivy League schools. So we'll just throw it out there. So his whole thing is that he goes out there and he defies the CIA's rules, because he can go out there and he can get things done by any means necessary. And the CIA looks at him with shame because, oh, you're going out there and you're pulling people's fingernails off and strapping them to car batteries. I'm thinking to myself, are we actually trying to pretend like that's the worst thing that the CIA does, to torture information out of you? Like, clearly none of you guys saw Sicario, because you guys get them way up from where you are now. But for as far as the characters go, like, what did you think was kind of like the best and worst characters of this film? Because I didn't have a problem with Ryan Gosling. I mean, like I said, I like Ryan Gosling more than not. I know how his roles, I guess you say, lack of emotion can be grinding in some of the films you guys seen it previously, but I didn't mind him in this film. I think Chris Evans was a little too over the top and goofy, and then everyone else just kind of like, they were kind of like one-note characters to the point. So what did you guys think of the characters in this film?
One of what is it? Ana de Armas? Do I have her name right?
And Ana de Armas, yeah.
I mean, she's a lovely actress, and she's gotten a lot of work, and she seems like a pretty capable action heroine. You could argue, why is someone who's like 98 pounds beating up all these people? I get that. Let's put that aside. But, this is something that John Nolte at Breitbart often talks about, and it sounds crude, but I think he's right. Why can't she be attractive? Why can't she wear like an attractive outfit or show a little skin or something? I mean, Ryan Gosling's like without his shirt half the time, and he's in good shape. It's just sort of weird how the new movie trend is the sexless female, where, even if she, I mean, I guess as a Bond girl, they let her look a little attractive, but I just, these are beautiful people in movies, and why can't they look beautiful? And one of the things I loved about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is that you had Brad Pitt looking like Brad Pitt, like sunning himself on the deck of the roof of his house, and Margot Robbie just looks so gorgeous. Like, they're movie stars. This is escapism. That's part of the fun. Why can't we have these attractive people look attractive? But, you can't have her character fall in love with Ryan Gosling, and you can't have her look attractive. It's just, it's a weird tick that we're seeing in a lot of films now.
Just to interject there real quick, I think the part of it is that post, Me Too, there's been this shift and kind of like the way that Hollywood works, because they tried to pretend like, Harvey Weinstein, we had no idea that he was a complete monster, even though everyone knew. I mean, they were making references to him in Entourage like 20 years ago, so everyone knew exactly the type of guy he is. So they're trying to course correct that now by being like, well, we're not going to have women on screen that they're only known for their beauty now. You're going to know them for their talent. So they're pretty much, like I said, they're essentially telling you what you're going to get instead of giving you what you want. And that's what you're seeing in a lot of these films, where they're trying to tear down the beauty standards and things of that nature. So when you have a very, very attractive, good-looking actress like Ana de Armas, we can't have her display that beauty that might actually, up the quality of the film at all. Because, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the film Deep Water with Ben Affleck, but that movie was absolutely awful. But she looked great, so there's something to keep you entertained for like 2 hours while you're watching this dreadful movie. But I'll go back to Roger.
Yeah, and we could see Thor completely naked, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Well,
but then again,
I like this sort of like, I don't know, updating on film noir sort of tropes. So I might end up liking, what is it called, Deepwater, the Ben Affleck Ana de Armas movie. So I mean, I don't know. I'll have to check it out and tell you how awful I think it is. But no, I was glad that she was part of this movie, because I generally have liked some of the things she's in. I mean, I hated Knives Out. I haven't seen the new James Bond movie, but she's usually, has a pretty good feel for projects. But yeah, I mean, I just wish she had more of a character. And I'm a big fan of the Bret Easton Ellis podcast I've mentioned a few times. And Bret, he talks about just a lot of the diminishing pleasure of movies. They are fantasies. They're things that are supposed to be forms of escape. And, part of that is taking in the pleasure of a beautiful woman, of just how she looks. So I certainly echo that. I just wish there was more to this movie. I know it's an action movie. I know it's going to be kind of limited in terms of storytelling, but for $200 million, I just wanted there to be more oomph, more scenes, more sort of more action scenes to kind of keep my attention instead of the kind of had like the martial arts kind of fill in a lot of that runtime. So
yeah.
There's one scene mid-movie, I think it's mid-movie, where Ryan Gosling's hero is handcuffed to a wall, and there's a literal army trying to pin him down. And spoiler alert, they can't. Now, I can swallow a lot in a movie. I can't. At some point, I just started regurgitating what they were trying to give me, and that's Can you cut us a break? Can you just cut us a break? All right.
Action.
Well,
man.
you know, the Czech army or military or the police, I guess they're not the most efficient, Christian. So be generous. You know, they were defunded, so you know, just accept that. Well, I think I think with Ana de Armas, first we'll get to see her beauty in Blonde. So she'll be Marilyn Monroe, and I guess we're not going to have any talk of cultural appropriation for a Hispanic woman playing an Anglo woman. So that's a plus. I actually think that she would make a competent. I was wondering why can't we have an Ana de Armas action movie, because I think she was probably the best part of No Time to Die. I think even the people who disliked No Time to Die, like I did, I hated it, but she was probably the highlight. So she could do it. I didn't think pro or con about her beauty. I figured that, you know, when you're tranquilizing people left, right, and center, you don't have time to go to makeup. Although you needed the obligatory shirtless shot. That's what I call it. You need the obligatory shirtless shot for the man. And we also did get a little bit of America's ass, so that was fun, I guess.
Yeah.
But for me, she was fine. I wasn't impressed with her. I thought she was better than whoever was playing Suzanne, and who just looked really stupid throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
I don't know her. I don't know the actress's name. You know, bless her. But it's probably the script is, oh, we killed the, you know, you just killed the Margaret Cahill, and I'm like, who's Margaret Cahill? Why should I care? I know that was Alfred Woodard, but like, this is not important. Again, it's part of that TV show.
Well, there was this Netflix tweet that went out earlier in the day that literally a follower of mine sent me in a DM and was like, "Isn't this gross?" And it's basically like had two screenshots of the two, you know, Ana de Armas and then the woman that's like supposed to be Chris Evans' boss with the short hair, and then she's basically like, "I could watch these two women tell men off all day," and I'm just like, "That's what you got out of that movie, really?" Like, please be a little bit less narcissistic. I just a little bit.
Of
That's
course.
so sad.
Yeah. Speaking of characters, I want to ask you guys this one real quick. So I'm going to try to pronounce his name the best I can. Regé Jean Page, which is who plays the head CIA guy, the black guy, the British actor in the movie. He's like set up to be like the main antagonist in the film, and then it feels like almost halfway in they kind of forget that he's in the movie. And then the whole, like, you get to like the ending part, it's all like, oh yeah, I guess he still has his job, so nothing really like changed at all either. Like, what do you guys think of like his character? It's sort of like, and we talk about this a lot with the MCU, and this is another film that is a high example of this. This film has a villain problem, right? So they bring in Chris Evans into the film, and he's supposed to be essentially the central villain of the movie, but it's like there is a bigger guy in this whole like world that's that no one's really dealt with up to this point. He kind of gets away with it towards the end. So what do you guys think of his character, because the villain issue of this film?
Yeah, it's very generic. I think what they're trying to do is set things up for more movies. Then he'll be sort of the overarching villain, and Chris Evans is just the villain at the moment. That's my guess. But he wasn't very interesting. And you're right. It is weird when they focus so much on a character, and all of a sudden he disappears for the entire movie, and he pops up at the end like, "Oh, remember me?" Oh, it's like, well, it seemed like you'd be important to maybe show a couple times more.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Chris Evans, I mean, he's basically just has quippy dialogue all movie long, and he's giving it to Ryan Gosling over the walkie-talkie. You know, there's banter basically for 75% of his screen time, and then he finally just like jumps into the fray, I guess. But yeah, it it never felt like that conflict. I never felt that frisson, just to borrow a word from the French, that, in that sense of conflict. So I thought that was a pretty big problem with the movie overall.
I don't know why we needed to really focus on Jean Rene Page or whatever his name is. I'm sorry, I don't watch Bridgerton or whatever posh show he's on. He's supposed to be like the mastermind, but we really don't get a sense as to why he would not only just be this major threat, but be protected by the old man or the big guy or whatever they call him. Yeah. They could call him Mr. Big, or the big head, and I don't care. He's kind of pointless, and if he's there to set up more sequels, why would we even care? Because he does disappear. He has no he's not there for so long that what is his name? I don't even know what his name is.
I think it's like in the film, it's like Renee or something like that. I can't even remember. But one second, because I know Christian might have to step off here for a minute. So I do want to give you a chance to kind of give you your final thoughts, and I do want to give you a chance to kind of like promote your stuff too, step out. So I'm going to give you the floor here for a second.
The gray man just confuses me. I feel like it leads to my burnout as a film critic because it's so frustrating, and yet at the same time it wasn't dull. So I think we've kind of hit all the major stuff, but my website is hollywoodintoto.com. I just have a family issue I got to attend to, so I apologize for leaving a bit early, but it's really cool to see all of you because I kind of know you so well from online, and it's good to see your faces.
Yes. Before you go, Christian, just know for my part, I look up to you. This is a big moment for me, so thank you for taking some time to speak to us lowly people.
No, you guys are great. I appreciate that. And thanks
a lot, Christian, and I hope we can have you back here soon, man. So thank you a lot. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming on.
All right, so I want to go ahead and jump back into the film here, because this is something that I wanted to talk about, and we talked about it a little bit as far as like the budget of this movie. This is a $200 million film that's on Netflix. I don't know how they think they're going to get that money back, but yeah, this is a $200 million film. But the one thing about it is that they go to a lot of interesting locations. So apparently they shot this movie in Prague, in the Czech Republic, in France, in Croatia. I think there was even a scene in, I think it was Bangkok at one point. So they went around the whole world to shoot this film, which I guess is part of their money laundering organization. So what did you think about the kind of the cinematography and the locations that they used within this movie here?
It's a complete waste. It's a complete waste because the thing I complain about the most is that movies are not shot on location enough. But you have to actually bring in that view of that city by taking the time to set up shots and to set up the composition of what you're showing the audience. And everything is it's edited at a breakneck pace. If you told me that it was a bunch of Marvel directors doing this and they're screenwriters, I would believe you, because that's exactly what it is. They don't take the time to set up the atmosphere of these cities, their meaningful locations, whatever, and they're just kind of the backdrop. So if you would have told me that they were all CGI, I probably would have believed you, simply because they're not filmed in a meaningful way to elicit the audience caring about it.
Yeah, there's no point in them going all around the world and just kind of hitting places that would look no different than Los Angeles? Because I think this movie and I think Rob will agree, this movie is very reminiscent of Ambulance in terms of the camera work and how it was.
Ambulance is much better.
But it was but it was just kind of sweeping in and out and moving all around. But
you could still tell they used drones to get those cameras. Like there's just there's an emphasis on filmmaking that even Michael Bay still gave to that movie that the Russo brothers just didn't in this movie.
Yeah,
so, but I don't know. Maybe that's just my personal taste.
Well, no, what I was thinking is that it had that same kind of flair. Yeah. With Ambulance, it was fine. Here, it was just showing off for me. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to see. It's nice. I guess it's nice to see Prague. It's nice to see Croatia. But I didn't believe that they were in Bangkok. It looked like any other set. To me, it was. I know they were trying to establish that this is a worldwide adventure, but I didn't see why we needed to go all these places. And oh, yeah, that's right. There's also a part where it's supposed to be in Hong Kong. That's where Claire is originally staying. And I thought, yeah, for an uncle who's been in like the CIA or whatever, super agent, yeah, you've never had this issue come up where your niece is going to possibly be threatened by international criminals. So no, I didn't see the point of this. 200 million. I think they just spent it on probably the visual effects, because I didn't believe that big fight scene at the end where they're at the fountain. I thought that was pretty much, what was that? If that was real and that was not CGI, I'm very disappointed, because it looked CGI to me. And it just, after, all right, after Chris Evans is dead, yeah, pretty much end the movie. Why do you keep going? Why do you keep going? Why do you keep going? Like, stop. I was like, no. I had the misfortune of staying awake for this movie.
Yeah, well, the other one puts you to sleep. That's why.
Yeah.
So they blame Jordan Peele's lack of ability to make his films interesting. Yeah, so I mean, there's another thing with this film too. Is some of the action sequences. Now, some of the action in this film I thought was pretty solid for the most part, but I think there was one point where I think everyone kind of jumped off this film. Is the scene where I don't remember exactly what city, and I'm assuming that it's Prague, but it's the one where they're on the tram, the light rail system, which I guess just runs itself in this country, because you have like multiple like terrorists and assassins like shooting this thing up, and it never stops at any point like whatsoever. So, and then like you have like the scene where they're trying to do like the really cool like John Wick type stuff. So he's looking at like the reflection as the train is moving, and he's using the reflection to aim and shoot and things of that nature. So it is some things that get a little ridiculous to the point. What do you guys think of the action of this film?
I mean, I thought it was okay. But again, I thought I was a bit underwhelmed knowing how much the budget was, and
Yeah.
you had the thing in the plane, like the daring escape and explosion in the plane when the guys get the order to kill him. There's that, and then there's the thing on the train, and there's a few, I guess car chases, and then just hand-to-hand combat. And so I don't know. I kind of felt like it was lacking a bit in the action. I thought it maybe could have done 2 or 3 more, stunt oriented sequences. But that's just what they ended up doing. So I thought the pieces in the movie itself were fine, but I just needed a little bit more to keep my attention the whole way.
I wasn't impressed. I was again bored, just waiting for anything interesting to pop up. And I always wonder, look, if a guy turns himself in, as he did when he went to that castle in, I think it was the Czech Republic, you should know it's a trap. You should know that no one's just willingly going to get caught. As for the action scenes, yeah, I guess they were fine. I wasn't particularly impressed one way or the other. I didn't think anything was, wow, this is fantastic. It just seemed a little too much. And yes, the tram. Well, you should, Jacob, you should know that the tram will run itself, because Europeans are just so much better than we are at everything.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
just accept that
It wouldn't even stop for people shooting at it. So God forbid, like a car actually got in front of there. It seems like it'd be kind of dangerous, right?
But it depends on the movie. But like that's one of the best parts of like a subway or a train movie is the conductor getting murdered. And then, and then going out of control and stuff.
Or maybe the bad guy rigs it, like
he just falls on the controls or whatever. You're not
going to have Spider-Man trying to stop the train. And by the way, Jacob, he's Tony Stark Jr. He's not Spider-Boy. He's Tony Stark Jr.
No, he's definitely Spider-Boy.
Nope.
I can't call him. I can't refer to him as a man in any way, shape, or form, even though he's like 28. So. Just throw that out there.
Just think of Spider Pig from the Simpsons movie.
Yeah, exactly. So
just better.
Quick little sidebar here about this film. If you're wondering if this film could have gone another way, this is actually a film that they've been working on for like 10 years. At one point, James Gray was set to direct this one, and Brad Pitt was set to star in it. That fell apart, And then they got the idea a few years later that, hey, let's do a gender swap version with Charlize Theron in the lead for this film. So thank God that didn't happen, because I can't imagine that would have been any better.
Atomic Blonde was terrible. Did you guys see Atomic Blonde that came out like 5 years ago or whatever? That was terrible.
I didn't hate the film, but yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
I like Red Sparrow better because it was like darker and more, more fucked up. So
yeah.
No, you just liked it because J Law was in a state of undress.
Yes, but I also liked it because it was cutthroat and murdery.
I like how Rob was like, yes, but
I'm not saying you're wrong. It's like, yeah, there are other things.
Yeah, so to continue here with there was one particular stunt that stood out to me, and it's, well, not I guess you could say stunt, but there was one sequence that came out to me, because the whole setup here is that, you know, Ryan Gosling's on the run basically from the CIA, so you think that would be like enough, but kind of have to have this emotional attachment. So like Billy Bob Thornton, they established that Ryan Gosling had a relationship, not a relationship like Jared Leto wise, but I mean there was an established relationship there with his daughter. How, you know, he took care of her, he protected her from, you know, other CIA assets that were trying to kill her or whatnot. So they have her in this film as sort of like the emotional attachment for him, because outside of that, like, there's really nothing for him here. There's two issues that I have with this film. One is that we talked about this earlier with the setup that he killed his father. He talked about how, you know, his father was, you know, beating up him and his brother, and then he had to like take him out and whatnot. That's why he was in jail. But later on, it's like he gets recruited. So it's like, so how exactly did he kill his father that led him to like the CIA? Because normally with situations like this, you're talking about guys that have killed like multiple amounts of people. Then the CIA is like, well, hey, this guy's good at his job. Why don't we send him to kill the guys that we want to kill or whatnot? And then just kind of the whole storyline with this girl that didn't really pay off with what they set up. Did you guys have any issues with those two aspects of the story?
Well, the weird thing is, like, so he's supposed to be the best at killing, but he's really a good guy. Things they don't add up in the intelligence community. Like, the people that have the biggest heart aren't the best killers. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And so it's like, that's what I mean. I wish the movie would have went like more ruthless with the intelligence world and community, or I wish it would have been more fun and tongue-in-cheek and over the top in almost a comedic way, where it's like, okay, this is so crazy, so ridiculous, so over the top, it's entertaining and it works. So I found that to be kind of just unbelievable, where it's like, okay, so this is pure fantasy in terms of just like Ryan Gosling playing this cipher, this drifter, this loner. He has a good heart, but he's also really good at killing. I just found that to be ridiculous.
Well, we know he has a good heart because in the beginning he won't take the shot that could kill the little boy, because of course the little boy is going to be at a New Year's Eve party in the middle of Bangkok and all this craziness. Yeah, right. That makes perfect sense. It's like, I'm sure a master killer would have figured out a way to do it, but no, I guess it's trying to portray him as kind of more of a sad and wounded person emotionally, that could kill his father and get recruited by the CIA to be Sierra Mist or Sierra 6.
Sierra 6.
Sierra 6, but I'll take Sierra Mist better.
They just refer to him as 6 throughout the course of the film, so.
Yeah, I mean, no different. How's this really much different than when he was Driver? You got 6, you have Driver.
Well, see, the problem there is that Drive actually had atmosphere and a vision by its director, and the necessary framework to actually build that character. There's just none of that here.
Yeah, but this is the same kind of I don't want to say same kind of performance, but I'm tiring of this Ryan Gosling shtick where he's always so emotionless and stern and
the self-serious 70s like exploitation, crime, existential like thriller character that Walter Hill made so effective, like with Ryan O'Neal and I mean, even in things like Crazy Stupid Love or La La Land, he's pretty much the same. Okay, I haven't seen those two movies, to be fair, so
I'm not impressed. I mean, I think he's always overcompensated for starting out at the Mickey Mouse Club, and he wants to show how serious he is by being so deep.
Remember the Titans? He was in that.
There was a film. There was a film a few years ago that I actually really liked. It was The New Guys with him and Russell Crowe, and that was when he was playing more of like a quirky, like almost like a comedic to the straight guy type character.
You're thinking The Nice Guys.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Is that New Guys?
I thought I said Nice Guys. That's what I meant, The Nice Guys.
Oh, I heard new. Well, yeah, but I mean, I wish he would just play something else. I was not impressed with his performance, and I wasn't impressed with any of their performances. I was just like, I was pleased only for Alfre Woodard to make some money for 10 minutes of screen time, if that.
Yeah, and then it felt like her character was really forced too. Like, it was one of those characters where they tried to make an emotional connection with her because she was essentially the head of the division when Billy Bob Thornton was in charge, and now she's kind of like in exile in Prague or whatnot because she's dying of cancer, and it's like, which gives them an easy out for her to say, well, I'm going to die anyway, so when I sacrifice myself, it's going to mean anything. It's like, well, had you not made that announcement in the film, maybe it would have meant a little bit more because it wouldn't have been like, oh, she did just sacrifice herself because she was going to die anyway. Like, there's a couple of creative decisions they could have worked around there as well. And just kind of speed up here to sort of like the ending of the film. You get like this big climax where it's Ryan Gosling versus Chris Evans, and they're on the hand-to-hand combat, just stabbing each other up. And so, what did you guys kind of think of the conclusion of this film? Was it kind of over the top? Was it missing something?
I can't tell you what that's from. I'm sure you guys might have a better handle on it because I'm just not. Action movies are not in my like my current memory. But the whole like knife fight where like the bad guy gets a couple like lucky shots in and the fight's in doubt, and then it's like, okay, I've seen this play out so many times. I mean, you could say it's like it's Kill Bill-esque, you know, where you know she's kind of losing at the end of the fight with Oren, and you know she musters up the courage to meet her opponent. So it just felt like a stupid choreography like dance between the two, and the orange background and like just the sky and shit. So yeah, it was real like cheesy like 80s action scene kind of stuff.
And another thing before Rick goes in with the whole like knife fight things, like they were really underselling how painful and how severe it is to get stabbed multiple times, because it's like, sure, if you get like nicked once or maybe get like stabbed in the arm, maybe you can like walk out with your adrenaline, but if you get hit like 4 or 5 times in succession, it's like you're going down. It's like your adrenaline can only do so much when you start like losing blood and the pain starts settling in. So, but it's an action movie, so we're not supposed to think about that.
Well, on my notes, I just put what a boring standoff or face-off. What a boring face-off between these two. I didn't care. I was waiting for one of them to drop. I was by this time just bored, waiting. I didn't care if either of them lived or died. I wish both of them had died. And then at the end to have Suzanne just really end it all, you know, because she's the one that put the bullet in Chris Evans, if memory serves correct.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, all of that just to have someone else pop in and pop him. What's it? What's fun or exciting about that?
Anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Very, very anticlimactic. You know, you also just reminded me there was another character in this film which was sort of like, so Chris Evans obviously is having a tough time trying to bring Ryan Gosling down, so he finds like this Indian hitman that he goes and like tries to retrieve like the item and whatnot. So it takes like 2 of them to like fight him, and he still gets like the better of them. So they end up going to like this giant like castle house that they have, that they're using at their headquarters. And he goes in and then like he retrieves the information, and it's like, yeah, we'll take care of like the kid and the old guy. And he's like, you got a kid in there? Like, he gets all offended at the notion that they're gonna kill this kid, which leads to a very, very I guess you could say anticlimactic standoff between him and Ana de Armas. That, considering the fact that he's supposed to be like this elite hitman, you would think that you wouldn't have much problem with her to begin with. But the whole thing is like they have this fight, and then at the end he just kind of gives up and is like, here, just take this. These people have no honor. It's like, well, if they had no honor, you could have like left a long time ago. Like, what are you still here for? So, but what did you think of that whole thing with his character in the film.
I mean, it's again this idea that like the CIA doesn't, that these agents would be unaware that they're being asked to knock off one of their own. It's like, oh, they've done that before. It's called it's like getting burned. It's like the idea where you're like persona non grata with the agency, and they leave you out to dry. And if you can make your way back home, great. But this is an agency in real life that has a lot of sketchy history. And so this idea that somebody would have a problem with that, it's like, you're in the wrong profession. You're in the wrong line of work. And not to be like overly cruel or overly like dark, but it that's the kind of that world. So I thought that was a little strange to kind of put in there.
I forgot what the question was.
Oh, the Indian hitman.
Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf, a very clever name, by the way. Lone Wolf. And yes, the I liked how Chris Evans kept referring to him as my Tamil friend, or my Tamil agent, just so that we would know that he's not Czech and I think the Tamils, I don't know if they're all in, I don't know if they're all Indian. I think there's some in Sri Lanka. But it's like, who are you? Oh, why should I care? Again, it's that sense of I'm getting information. I mean, I'm getting bits and pieces, but I'm not getting actual information as to who this character is. Why he came out of nowhere. What was his point? And he has a. I thought it was probably a good battle with Ana de Armas. But yeah, at the end, or like, oh, here, and yes, you're going to kill a kid. I kept thinking, Lone Wolf, you've probably done worse. You've probably killed people, and you didn't flinch, and now you're gonna flinch because some girl that you've never met and that you have no idea who she is. I mean, I want to say
not only that, but you're working for a guy in Chris Evans who's a known sociopath who will do anything. It's like you didn't understand, but the guy that you were working for this whole time, that he had some questionable methods, that he would go as far as hurting a kid. Like, there was no indication of his character before this scene.
Yeah, and maybe this is cruel. Forgive me, but maybe if Lone Wolf had met Claire, he would have said, "Oh, okay, yeah, go at it, and just toss her off the building." I'm just being mean. So no, I didn't believe him, and he's supposed to be what? Why not just? Why didn't the CIA just hire Lone Wolf to go after Six? Why
because they had to keep it quiet from the higher ups. That's why. Yeah. Because remember, Chris Evans was going to get in trouble if it got. Or no, it wasn't even Chris Evans. It was the black dude that was like working with the
Bridgerton.
Suzanne or whatever was her face.
Yeah.
And it was just Bridgerton. We can't let the old man figure it out. And it's just like, that's right. The CIA, the organization is good, but it's individuals that are corrupt, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I figured the old man is probably who would be revealed like number one in a future Gray Man.
Film. There's a sequel coming out, right? They already greenlit a sequel to this movie. Yep, it was in like the trivia or whatever, and I'm like, why? Really, Netflix? You're going to make another disaster?
And it'll be. And,
their stock price, they clearly don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I get maybe the old man will be revealed to be, I don't know, the president. He's an old man, but why? I don't. I know they were teasing a sequel, and that's one of my pet peeves about
called
movies.
Ghosted or Ghost or something like that, where because he's like supposed to be like a ghost, the Ryan Gosling character, because they even mentioned that in this, and I'm like.
If there's one thing I hate, it's when a movie basically announces there's a sequel, and if there's not. They could make a sequel, but I don't think anyone's gonna watch it.
So you don't like when movies announce there's gonna be a sequel? So what do you think about the MCU's Phase 5 and Phase 6 that got announced over the weekend? Movies for the next 4 years that are being announced.
I would tell them. Look, when you started watching these movies, maybe when you were a teen, you would be pushing, you would be in your maybe mid 30s, pushing early 40s. It's time to let it end. All right. Like, I don't know who yes, but I kind of expect there to be sequels for the Marvel movies because what's Harry Styles going to do? In a couple of years, we need to get him that Oscar that he was going to win.
Who?
So Harry Styles.
Oh, Harry. I thought you said Terry. I'm like, who's Terry Styles?
Harry Styles, your generation's Frank Sinatra.
The star of Dunkirk, Harry Styles.
Oh, yes. The newest MCU superstar. That's
You know
your generation's.
You know what gets me is whenever there's like a Variety or a Deadline article and they're like star of whatever, and it's like the 7th or 8th person in the cast, and it's like, how do you
was literally
pass
in the
that
movie
off?
for like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, if there's going to be a sequel, I really can't imagine who would want to watch it. Why they would care. These characters are so boring, and you got rid of Chris Evans. Who are you going to bring? His brother, like in Die Hard, or I don't know who else you're going to pop up with to take revenge. Maybe Lone Wolf can join forces. I don't.
The Russo brothers are working on a sequel to the Chris Evans Netflix movie. Not Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth Netflix movie Extraction. That one's actually already been shot. I think it's supposed to come out like later this year or something like that.
Well, so, I never saw it.
Yeah, the first one is better than this one, I can tell you that much. But it's a pretty decent one. It's probably the best thing that I've seen Chris Hemsworth in. That's probably not saying a whole lot. So, quick little shout out over here. I saw this name. I didn't even realize that Sarah has joined us in the chat tonight. So say hello to Sarah for everyone here. I just threw out that name. It's like, oh yeah, that is Sarah. Okay. Quick clues. We'll go ahead and wrap up our final thoughts with this film. Now, I don't know. Maybe it's because I saw this one early in the morning. Maybe it's because I came in here with very low expectations. I honestly didn't hate this film. Am I saying it's a perfect film? Absolutely not. But there's a lot of things that you can point out here. But I think a big part of it is that I hate Netflix. I just do. And the stuff that I've seen on Netflix over the last few years has been god awful. I didn't hate this one. I think that it was a confident enough action film that a lot of people really aren't going to point out most of the flaws in this movie. To me, this kind of felt like a modern, big budget, $200 million possible money laundering operation of what was essentially be a B film back in the day, right? It's just like, hey, we have generic hero man. Here's your conflict. He's going to go around and save the day. There's going to be bad guys. This is basically just a typical popcorn flick. It's not a film that's supposed to give a lot of thought to. I'll probably give this one somewhere around a 2.5 out of 5. I mean, if you're just going in there with like, hey, look, I just want to see an action movie for a couple of hours, this is pretty much the most you're going to get out of it. You're not going to get any more or any less. It's not terribly done. There's just a lot of things that, if you looking into the plot, kind of don't make too much sense. But like I said, it's a Russo brothers action movie. So sort of like the MCU. It's not good enough to be great. It's not bad enough to be terrible. It's just right there in the middle. So that's what I think about it. Why don't you guys give your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was just a puffed up kind of like Born Identity movie, but like even those movies are so much better executed than what happened here. I mean, I can take into account that it was the Russo brothers and it was the people who made Marvel movies, but there was just so little here. I probably would also give it a 2.5 out of 5 just because the expectations are low, and it's like there's you have the special effects and the action scenes. You have dumb dialogue and characters that are non-existent, but that's largely the case when it comes to these, to action movies and to what they're supposed to do. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in it that I don't like. I don't particularly like really any of the performances. Chris Evans did make me laugh a few times with some of the stuff he was saying, but it's just like here and there little laughs or whatever. So didn't take that into account too much. But yeah, 2.5 out of 5. These Netflix movies suck. They're terrible, but the bar's pretty low at this point. So there you go.
I've not shifted my view. This is the worst film I've seen all year. I absolutely hated this movie. I mean, you can't really please me when you have dialogue like this from 6. You guys taught me how to kill people, not care for them. Oh wow, that's deep. And if you're going to talk about if you're going to talk about action movies, I mean, yeah, I like action movies if they're entertainment. Um, I have defended almost every Fast and Furious movie except for the one when they go into outer space, which was a bridge too
The
far even
last
for
one.
me. Yeah, I mean, all the others have been mindless, goofy, fun that I don't take serious. This one, however, took itself too seriously, and it was really awful. Everything about it, like I keep saying, it felt like a TV show. It felt like a series recap for a TV show that I'd never seen or heard of, and it maybe would have worked better as a TV show than it would have as a series. But this was terrible. I'm tired of Gosling just being the same kind of performance that he's been giving for well over 5-10 years.
10 years, yeah.
10 years. Evans was over the top, but not in a good way. I could like Ana de Armas. I think she would make a good action star in her own right if she had the right material. I'm going to give this a maybe a. Can I give this a half?
You can go as low as 0. I mean,
All
so,
right,
yeah.
it's a 0. It's a 0. This
Wow.
I would sooner. I said I would sooner watch Morbius again. I would sooner watch Love and Thunder again. I would sooner. I would sooner watch. I don't know anything short of The Hangover Part 2. I would sooner watch that. No, I wouldn't watch Hangover Part 2 over this. But I just absolutely hated this movie, and the curse is that I didn't fall asleep. I stayed awake, and I kept thinking, Jacob, why do you hate us so much? Why do you hate us so much just to make me watch this?
Well,
Netflix
let
promoted
me,
it. Oh, you know,
yeah.
since the beginning of the year.
Well, first of all, let me just go ahead and tell you this: if you think that this is the worst film I'm gonna make you watch this year, you haven't seen what we have coming up later this summer. So you think that this movie may be your worst film of the year for like 2 weeks. So,
Oh, Yvey.
yeah, and
them,
I
it's
was gonna bring this
terrible.
up with Christian too. It's like you got, because I know he said that Nope was probably his worst film so far this year. It's like, is it just me? I've seen way worse. Like, is that a problem with me that I'm just watching these absolutely god awful movies that nobody else is watching? Because like even a film like this, maybe it's just going in with such low expectations that I'm like, oh, this wasn't that bad compared to what I've seen this year, which has been absolutely horrendous. Like I said, we survived The Princess, and then be quite honest with you, The Princess right now, maybe it's in my top 5, but I can see a couple things knocking that one off later this year as well. So who knows?
You to survive The Princess, and I mean, you're about someone who actually. Sorry, I'm going to bring this up just to rub it in with you, Jacob. You're talking to someone who did not mind Marry Me. So there you go.
Yeah, that one's definitely going to be in my top 3.
You know, Jurassic World Dominion is not that far down my list of like the things I've enjoyed seeing this year.
Yeah.
So I can't even. It's the Black Phone and Ambulance are top my list right now of 2022. So while these movies may not be god awful, terrible, there's really not much that's good out there. Okay, and I know everybody loved Top Gun Maverick. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. It's fine, but it's like, okay, there's nice plane stunts. There's no and Tom Cruise does give a good performance. Okay, like I think he's somewhat challenged as an actor. He gave a good performance. That was good. So there's some things about it that I liked, but I'm so surprised that it's made over $1 billion. Like if you would have asked me, hey, what do you think? Should we green? I've been like, no, it's not. Nobody's gonna go see that. Nobody cares. It's Top Gun. Mm-hmm. It's the gayest film ever. And it's made $1.2 billion. So what do I know?
You did not see Brokeback Mountain. How could you say that?
You know what? This is what's funny. Well, I think Brokeback Mountain is a great movie, just based on the merits. And yeah, I know, but it's like because it's about a love story. It's about two men who can't be together. It's sad. It's tragic. Whatever. That's enough.
Well, a couple of notes there. There's a film coming out later this year called Bros, which we talked about earlier with Billy Eisner. Well, that one is literally being promoted as the gayest movie ever. So you might have to change that.
I thought Thor: Love and Thunder was the gayest movie, or is that just the gayest MCU?
No, the gayest MCU film.
Oh, okay.
Ever.
Whatever that means. Little like queer baiting where Tessa Thompson blows a woman a kiss.
Yeah,
and like there's a few other things. Oh yeah, the Taika Waititi character is is gay.
The Rocks, the gay Rocks.
The Rocks, gay Rocks.
And then the other thing is that I had this conversation last night with Culture Casino about kind of just like films like outside of the country, because I'm one of the people who, like, for years I've put over South Korean cinema. They're doing like some really good like horror movies and like just general like action thrillers. Like they're doing a lot of good stuff there. So I definitely put over what they're doing. And then he was putting over last night that India is doing like some of the great best movies that you're seeing like so far this year. Now, I'm not a huge fan of like Indian cinema, so it has to be kind of like pick and choose for me. But I'm open to watching some of those films, because some of the recommendations that I'm getting from people who are pretty well versed in the business are saying that, yeah, they're killing it over there. Meanwhile, we're just getting some of these like dog crap mediocre films here in the United States. Like I say, Top Gun is just the movie that everyone's talking about, because can you think of another movie that's been released, a big budget movie that's anywhere near as good as that one? Like, you really can't. Like, I'm looking at my list here. It's like I got a couple of South Korean films. I have Hustle, which I actually liked. I still give that one 4 out of 5. That's a Netflix film. And then there's a couple other ones that are on streamers, but I haven't really seen anything big budget wise that's come out in movie theaters that I can really point to be like, oh yeah, this has been a great year for films. You know, all of the films that I put over have kind of been either smaller budget or foreign films altogether. So yeah, it's not a very good year for the box office. And
well,
look ahead, it's not going to get much better.
Well, I would say that as someone who did enjoy Minions, and as someone who did like Everything Everywhere All at Once, I guess I know, Rob. I know. But I mean, and I like Top Gun. I think Top Gun is probably 1 or 2 in my best of list so far. But this one's going to be at the worst. I maybe we'll find something far worse than Gray Man, but I'm struggling to. Well, who knows? The year's not half over yet, and I shudder to think what James Corden is Britain's pun. I don't know what he's in.
The gay movie with Billy.
Oh,
yeah,
gross. Yeah.
With what?
So there was a South Korean film, and I've seen barely any South Korean films, but there was one on Netflix that came out in 2018 or 2019 called The Night Will Come for Us. That was just like the most brutal, most violent, and like awesomely choreographed action movies I've ever seen. And it's just like this very simple like movie where this guy has to protect this little girl from like every single possible like.
It's actually an Indonesian film. It's not South Korean.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But I saw it a couple years ago and I thought it was excellent. So I'm definitely open to checking out more movies. More South Korean movies.
It's sad because it seems like the rest of the world is playing our game better than we are right now. I mean, you know, while they're bringing out these absolute like over the top action classics that they're spending way less money on. By the way, like the movie we were talking about last night was like Triple R, I think is the name of the film, an Indian film. Yeah. They only spent like $75 million making that movie. And then you look at how did they make that big epic film for only $75 million? Meanwhile, Thor: Love and Thunder cost $250 million. Like, you can't tell me that there's someone's cooking the books, or maybe there's some organized crime going on behind the scenes there. There's just no way that makes any sense.
Well, I guess things are less expensive in India.
Maybe, or maybe they just don't have this. Maybe they're a little bit better at cooking their books than here in this country are. So, but let's go ahead and wrap things up. I want to go give you guys a chance to kind of promote all your stuff or where we can find you. Go ahead and give the mic to Rob. Rob.
Yep. Just follow my Twitter at the bottom of the screen there. I talk about movies. I watch a lot of movies every week. And I'm here every Monday with Jacob doing the movie review show. Next week, I think we're doing, I think it's called Vengeance by BJ Novak. Yeah. And then also the They Them movie, which luckily is coming to Peacock, so I don't have to go see it in the theater.
Well, that one is in 2 weeks. So just
a
quick little sidebar here. Next Monday night, we're going to be reviewing Vengeance, which is the PJ Novak movie. And then we're also going to do a movie called Not Okay, which I believe is on Hulu. I'm going to make sure that is the case. Okay. I believe that's a Hulu thing. Yes, it is in fact a Hulu film. So just throwing that out there.
So yeah, we'll be reviewing those 2 movies, and then I'm just going to be on my Twitter bitching about the current state of cinema. So check it out.
And apparently becoming a Logan Paul fan as well. So just throw it out there. And then let's go ahead, Mr. Rick. Where can they find you?
Well, I've put in my own Twitter. I'm still at Rick's Texan Reviews, or you could also type in Rick's Cafe Texan, and it'll direct you there. I'm getting ready for not just my mom's party, but we're also coming up with the Plaza Classic Film Festival. So I'll be checking out some movies there. I already got tickets for Singing in the Rain, where I'll be where Rita Moreno's going to be speaking. Amadeus, where F. Murray Abraham's going to be speaking. And who did you just say? Who?
No, I said cool.
Oh, okay.
Cool. I know who F. Murray Abraham is. Yes.
Okay.
Amadeus, Scarface, etc.
Oh yeah, they're going to be showing Scarface as well as part of the film festival. So yeah, just getting ready for that, and also eventually pretty soon I'll be going to hopefully see the I think it's a sing along for Grease 2, a movie that I do love. Sorry. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to. I can say I'm looking forward to, but I'm curious about Vengeance only because it's set in West Texas, and I am from West Texas.
Yeah.
So I will see how accurate it is. I can give you the lowdown on accuracy here. Okay. That's pretty much my spiel.
All right, then let's go ahead and let you guys know what I got coming up here. On this channel, other channels, Wednesday night, we'll be back on Bounding in the Comics YouTube. We'll be doing the Black Pill stream. Myself, Josh, Trent, and then Spencer, who has been harassing us in the chat all night. He'll be back Wednesday night. This Friday night, we'll be doing the bar room. Hopefully, we'll get some guests there. Sarah, who I know is in the chat today, maybe she'll come back and join us on Friday night. This Saturday night on Twitch, we're going to be reviewing, I guess we're going to be watching and reviewing the film, The Frighteners, the 1996 film with Michael J. Fox. That should be a good one. And then next Monday night here on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Twitter, because apparently we're on Twitter now as well, we're going to be reviewing, like you said, Vengeance, which is the movie with PJ Novak and Ashton Kutcher. We're going to be reviewing that film. We're also going to be reviewing the Hulu film Not Okay with Zoe Dutch. So that's also going to be another one that's on our docket as well. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be doing Bullet Train and They Them in 2 weeks. And then we're going to have to figure out what I'm going to do after that, because in 3.5 weeks, I am going to Vegas for the big meetup with, I believe, Culture Casino, Comics Division. I think Geeks and Gamers, a few people are going to be there as well. So we'll have a big meetup. I'll have to move some things around, but I'll be out there. I know it's Vegas in August, so that's going to be an experience in and of itself. I'm going to try to dress light as I possibly can, but just showing those are the things that we got coming up here. So here on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch as well. Go follow us on Twitch, follow us on YouTube if you've done that as well. Society Movies on Twitter. You can catch my hot takes where I'm arguing with very, very stupid people about very, very stupid things. So yeah, if you want more of that, that's where I'm going to be. Society Reviews, the main site where I'm going to be posting some movie reviews later on this week. And I got a crap ton of stuff coming in the Bounding in the Comics. I just posted my Q&A with Ashley Bratcher about the Unplanned film. And then Nick Sarcy, hopefully that Q&A will be posted either tomorrow or on Wednesday as well. I know Rob, that's one of his favorite people who blocked him on Twitter. Just want to throw that out there as well.
Yeah.
And then
Kentucky Wildcat fan. He got his feelings hurt.
A quick little shout out to everyone here in the chat. Like I said, Sarah Hargan, maybe she'll join us on Friday night. Hint, wink, wink, just throwing that out there. When you know, Weather Boy. Lewis the Casual, who always joins us for all of our streams. Thank you for joining us as well. Condescending Josh, Matt Walsh, What is the Women is 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes, all 5 reviewers. The woke critics didn't even bother because they know that it's good and they can't actually criticize it. Well, yeah, I mean, the only people who actually did criticize it were probably people who would be favorite scores as well. So, like I said, quick shout out to Spencer, who also joined us tonight. I know D-Man was with us. Matt from Matt's movie reviews all the way in Australia. Hopefully he can come back with us next week. And then quick little shout out to Christian Toto, who definitely joined us today. I know he had an issue with his kid that he had to take care of, but thanks for joining him for our time. Hopefully we can get him back here maybe next week in a couple of weeks. Follow him at hollywood@toto.com. Follow my Christian Toto on Twitter. Very, very nice guy. Very, very cool guy. Definitely go follow him. He's one of the voices that you definitely need to hear from. So just a quick shout out for everyone who joined us here tonight. We're past the 2-hour mark. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So we're going to go ahead and hit the outro, I guess we could say, that our good friends Josh and Spencer loves. We will see you here next week for more ramblings about movies that you guys probably won't even watch anyway. They're absolutely awful because that's just our life now. So until then, we will see you later next week. Good night. Goodbye. Adios.